Okay, why don't we get started? My name is Mark Werwath. I'm the director of the Master of Engineering Management program here at Northwestern University, the McCormick School of Engineering. I want to welcome you all to our information session. We hold these events roughly every 6 weeks or so during the admission season. We normally hold these online, and our job today is to basically answer your questions and to give you some basic information on the program itself. The program, of course, starts, the next big intake will be starting this year for the fall 22 school year. I will ask you to limit your questions to the chat room. We do have 3 folks helping us in the chat room, including Lauren Jones and Lisa Myers. So we do have some good support. We also have Jenny Grist as well. So let's get started. The agenda today, we're going to go through a few introductions. Why pursue an MEM degree? Why an MEM at Northwestern versus, say, many other schools that teach MEM? What does the Northwestern curriculum look like? What is the Northwestern student experience? What career services are offered? What are the requirements for admission? And finally, some Q&A. I do want to remind people that the $50 application fee, which is normally attached to every application, part-time and full-time, is waived for those who attend this session. So please email mem@northwestern.edu to obtain your waiver. So that way you can avoid paying the $50 and also you can get started on your application. Our program staff, we have an associate director named Abby Shea. She's our senior associate director for all of the Office of Professional Education, which MEM is one of 11 programs at McCormick. She's got 9 years of experience. She's extremely capable, as is Mandy Hatfield, who is our associate director specifically assigned to MEM and MBAI, which is a separate program with the Kellogg School. She's got years of professional PM experience as well as admissions and student services. So you're in good hands with both of those folks, as well as Lauren Jones, who's our program coordinator, been with MEM for several years, an amazing resource, as well as George, who's our program assistant. Between the two of them, they basically help shepherd you through the admissions process and beyond. So once you are admitted and matriculated, you will be interacting with both of these folks, and certainly George, for registration and issues that are associated with being a student, right? So they will help you collect all the required documentation. They will manage communications, process financial reimbursements, work with you on career and course advising, manage course scheduling, lead the admission process, and develop student programming, and help guide you to find answers to all sorts of questions. And it's amazing what kinds of questions students can come up with, right? My background, 30 years in engineering, almost all of it in new product development, mostly in electronics. But I also worked in the security industry with a company called PrintTrack. I worked in defense with a company called Northrop, and in the gaming industry, a company called WMS Gaming. So those 30 years of experience have now been supplemented attached to, I guess, about 10 or 12 years experience here at Northwestern, where my job is fundamentally to accept only the best students as director, keep the curriculum current and relevant, network students to the community. That community is both seasoned professionals and alumni, as well as current day students and faculty here on campus, so that you can have the fullest experience possible, right? My job is also to stretch students beyond their comfort zones and to develop technology and engineering leaders. Now, recognize I too am an alum of MEM from the 80s, late 80s, and as such, I know the program, I know the community, I know Northwestern. And I also know a lot about engineering management. So maybe that's why they chose me. But fundamentally, my job is to kind of stitch the students into the fabric of the engineering management community, not just of Chicago or the Midwest, but hopefully the whole country. Who are we targeting? This is a very important point. We are not targeting everybody. Okay, we are targeting experienced STEM professionals, right? Who intend or are ready to manage people, projects, new innovations, or businesses, right? We want those who desire to obtain a systems perspective, want to apply engineering concepts, analytical tools to solve business problems, right? those who strive to be a leader in the C-suite of a technology-oriented enterprise, engineers who want to start a technically oriented enterprise, meaning entrepreneurs. We've had quite a number of very successful entrepreneurs. And also those who want to innovate within their own company. And we call those folks intrapreneurs. So bottom line, folks with, 3 years experience or more is more or less ideal for us. Those with STEM backgrounds and STEM experience in the field. That's who we are targeting. So recognize there's a lot of great programs out there, especially MEM PC schools, and most of them target a much larger audience. We're targeting a very narrow slice of that, those that have experience and those who have STEM degrees. The U.S. Department of Labor reports that engineering managers represent the third highest paying profession, if you exclude medical from that list. And also fundamentally, the BLS employment statistics of architectural and engineering managers is projected to grow 6%. So from 2016 to 2026, you're looking at 6% compound annual growth, projecting that there will be approximately 190,000 engineering management jobs in the US alone. So BLS thinks very highly of engineering management, your career trajectory, MEM versus MBA. We want to leverage your background as a STEM professional. So we want to help you develop as what we call a T-shaped engineer, right? What that means is you'll have deep expertise in one vertical, which you got mostly from your undergrad. We want to give you that broad horizontal view of business, of leadership, of management. And in many cases, students come to us and they want to develop a second vertical. So they often develop analytics or supply chain or something of that nature as their second vertical to support their primary vertical, mechanical, electrical, et cetera. We are technology focused, right? We're, our curriculum's more aligned with today's business needs that combine technology and business skills. Engineering management is very attractive at this time because we're kind of uniquely positioned between the world of technology and the world of business. We do hire and retain world-class engineering school faculty and world-class technology-oriented practitioners. You're going to see that we're probably 2/3 practitioner, 1/3 research faculty, right? So we are not as dominant when it comes to tenured faculty. We're more focused on practitioners, bringing them into the classroom. Most of them have more than 20 years experience. Many of them have engineering management, and/or an MBA in their background, but they're all experienced with working with technology and technology professionals. Compared to an MBA, right, we are 12 courses versus more than 20 for a typical MBA. And we're also relatively small in terms of 3,000 graduates, nationwide in 2017 versus say 200,000, which is almost 2 orders of magnitude greater, right? MBA graduates, it's interesting, right? In Chicago alone, one school, University of Chicago or Northwestern, can easily graduate 500 MBAs a year. We graduate something like 20 to 40 MEM students a year. So very different. Again, easily 2 orders of magnitude. So why pursue an MEM in Northwestern, right? So we embrace this whole brain philosophy that comes from our dean. The whole brain education basically balances left brain, right brain, the highly analytical with the highly reflective and emotional. So you get this kind of qualitative and quantitative blend that I think is somewhat unique to Northwestern, at least in terms of our intent and the way we balance our curriculum. Combining engineering, technology, and business housed within what we call the industrial engineering department. Industrial engineering focuses mostly on analytics and the use of statistics and operations research techniques, right? We balance Northwestern faculty with local industry, as I mentioned. We interact with other great resources, Kellogg School of Management, Farley Center for Entrepreneurship, other professional masters. Again, we have 10 other professional masters within McCormick Office of Professional Ed. And of course, this thing called the Garage, which is an entrepreneurial incubator on campus here for students, specifically designed for both grad and undergrads who want to pursue their startup, and they want to pursue it in a incubator fashion. We have student competitions. We have industry night every year. We have networking events, career events, almost, I would say, on a regular basis, and in many cases weekly. We have a population of roughly 2/3 part-time, 1/3 full-time. We're very collaborative. We try to bring those two sides together. We think one reinforces the other and complements the other very nicely. So part-time students benefit from the global nature of our full-time population. Full-time students benefit from the local expertise and engineering knowledge and understanding of local companies that part-time students can bring. So it's really, we feel it's mutually beneficial to bring both of those populations together. We are also one of the top tier MEM programs, period. We happen to be located in Chicago within the Midwest. I would say there's not, much between us and, say, Purdue. I'd say Purdue is a world-class program in Indiana. And then we've got programs in Colorado at UC Boulder. But there's not a lot of competition between those two locations. So yeah, we're somewhat unique in Chicago that we actually offer an MEM, period. There's not too many MEM programs in Chicago other than us. And of course, online programs, which are everywhere. MEM Foundations. We are located and positioned inside the Industrial Engineering Management Sciences Department, which is ranked number 4 among U.S. industrial engineering programs by U.S. News and World Report. It's a great company to be in. I mean, usually first is Georgia Tech. And given our size, we definitely, as you will put, we punch above our weight, right? We have a world-class BS program, Bachelor of Science, where we have easily 100 grads per year. An unbelievable PhD program where we graduate maybe a dozen or even fewer than that every year. Our MEM program graduates somewhere between, say, 40 or so students per year, and MSIA, which graduates closer to 50. MSIA is a Master of Science in Analytics, and that analytics program is a full-time day program that basically has no experience requirements, but it's very rigorous mathematically. It's rigorous from an analytics and data perspective, and those folks graduate with data science degrees. If that is your goal, to have a data science degree and then call yourself a data scientist, I recommend MSIA. We do have a concentration in data science we'll talk about later, but it's really the management of data science that we focused in. So MEM, we're not a data science program. I want to make that really clear. On the other hand, we do have a lot of roots in data science and operations research. All right, this is the curriculum. We have 7 core classes, 2 advanced engineering methods, and 3 electives. I would consider this one of the most flexible programs in the engineering management sphere, right? These are the 12 courses. There is no thesis required. So that's, I think, pretty typical for professional master's programs. We have a core curriculum that includes marketing, finance, accounting, leadership, and what we call engineering management, which is really kind of a business simulation course. So you're going to experience business at kind of a systems view in a competitive landscape, right? So you're competing team against team. And that course basically teaches you the fundamentals of how to run a business. We consider ourselves very flexible. We have one of the most flexible programs. So in addition to the 5 courses you get to choose for yourself, right? We do have flexibility as to what sequence you take the courses in, what time frame. You can graduate in as little or as few as 9 months. Full-time students typically graduate in 15 months, so they have a summer internship available to them in usually the summer right before they graduate. They typically graduate at the end of the following fall. So that's why we say the 15-month option is probably the most popular. Part-time students can take anywhere from pretty much 3 years up to 5 or even 6. So these 12 courses in a quarterly system, right? We're on the quarters, can be spread almost in any way you want. Full-time students have to take a minimum of 3 courses per year. to maintain their full-time, or sorry, per quarter to maintain their full-time status. All right, these are the core classes. I mentioned engineering management as a business simulation class. So you're running a business in a simulated cloud environment, right? Accounting for engineers, which is both managerial and financial accounting. Those are combined and basically focused on what engineers need, not necessarily what accountants need. So this is not a class for accountants. This is a class in accounting for engineers, right? Financial issues for engineers. Similarly, we take the broad spectrum of finance and boil it down to one class with an engineering focus. Marketing, similarly, the same way. We're starting to bring more analytics into the marketing class. We're starting to bring in faculty from Medill. I consider Medill world-class in the marketing realm. And again, more analytics and more data science is attached now to the marketing course. Decision tools is our foundational operations research course, OR. And as an OR class, you basically get a broad spectrum of OR techniques and otherwise what we call decision tools, right? Leadership in OB is a core class that fundamentally explores your leadership skills, not necessarily the history of leadership or even that much theory. It's about you and your skills and your attributes and what you need to work on as a leader. Strategic management, our capstone course, is fundamentally a course that explores macroeconomics and the macroeconomic impact on the firm. So we got a world-class PhD who happens to be a CEO of a local steel company, and he's been one of our favorite faculty for a long time. So that is the core curriculum. We have as well the advanced engineering methods courses. I tend to teach mostly the project management course. I've been teaching other courses such as negotiations lately, as well as a lot of entrepreneurship. But these are the AEM courses that you can choose from. And actually the list is a little bit longer. The new venture courses are the entrepreneurship courses. So I teach the energy course, the transportation course, and I've been involved in the medical. So we have a great selection for you to choose from. Open electives, general electives, include things like business process, change management. I've taught that course, technical entrepreneurship, and negotiations. We've got some great faculty for all of those. Outside of MEM, we've got courses from Kellogg, MSLOC, Industrial Engineering, Master of Project Management, Master of Science in IT, Siegel, Design Center, and Nuvention. So all the Nuvention courses are fundamentally entrepreneurship. Siegel Design is always going to be, user-centered design. That is their fundamental philosophy and approach. So again, take 3 of these courses, 2 of the advanced engineering methods, 7 core classes, and you're done, right? You can be done again in 9 months. That's probably the bare minimum. More likely 15 months so that you can get your internship. These are, that's the same information spread in a slightly different way. I'm showing here the concentrations that we have. So you can earn a concentration in managerial analytics, process and project management, product management, and new for MEM in the last year or 2 is healthcare systems. So we've aligned ourselves with a local hospital and a hospital network, Northwestern Memorial Hospital downtown, Lake Forest Hospital, 10 miles north of our location. And this is really for those who want to understand the operations of the healthcare enterprise, right? I would say of these 4, the most popular lately has been product management. And before that, it was project management. Many students come to us for some of the excellent courses we teach. We've got an excellent professor of product management. His name is Burju Shah. I would encourage you to look him up and see what he has to say. But he comes to us from Uber, and he's been with Uber. He was at Google. He's been in a lot of different companies, fundamentally working in the product management sphere. So the bottom line here is you can earn these concentrations or you can choose not to. And you can just finish up with your MEM degree and take a variety of courses throughout your career. On top of that, we have co-curriculars and extracurriculars that include workshops. The most popular of that is probably CSPO, Certified Scrum Product Owner. We have communications workshops, visits to companies like Chicago Tube and Iron, Motorola, UI Labs, tours throughout Chicago, such as 1871, which is our local digital incubator. We also have ISTP, which is a local wet lab facility for wet lab-based startups. The student body, this is data as of September of last year. You can see we were 73% male. 33% of our students have graduate degrees. In some cases, they already have an MBA. So they come to MEM in some cases to supplement their MBA or their other graduate work, but they also see the value of engineering management as a whole. 5 years of experience is typical on average for both full-time and part-time students. And our students come from almost every corner of the world, from Brazil to Taiwan. You see Syria, Spain, Panama, Nigeria, New Zealand, all sorts of wonderful countries, especially, of course, China and India and Kazakhstan, which probably are some of the most popular countries that our students come from. This is updated now for fall of 21. So this is the incoming class that's sitting in class today. We're sitting at about 82% male, 20% who have advanced degrees. The average work experience has gone up. So now we're at 7.6 years for part-time and 5.3 years for full-time. So similar mix of countries. We're seeing more from Mexico and from Pakistan and other Central American countries, and South American, including Chile, which it's good to see the Chileans back. These are the companies that students come from. So this is mostly the part-time students. And these are local companies from United Airlines to Pepsi, Medline, Motorola, Kraft, General Electric. And when I say GE, this is fundamentally their transportation business, but there are other GE facilities in Chicago, including medical. So we got GE Medical as well as other medical device manufacturers. So I think Chicago is mostly known for medical and for pharma and for insurance and for banking. And at one time, the companies like Motorola, GoGo Wireless, et cetera, have been dominant. This is, again, fall of 21. So I think we've covered this. Outcomes, right? This is the outcomes from 2020. These were the locations that students, or what they reported to us, where they were going and what they were doing and what their title was going to be. So we had 37 graduates in June of 2020. 20 were from December. Only 2 were looking for work. So 2 out of 37 were unemployed or looking for employment at the time of graduation. 35 had already gained employment. Those who had worked well in the program were generally promoted at least once. I've known some part-time students get promoted more than once. In fact, twice, and in one case, 3 times. Most found jobs in the location and industry of their choice. We actually are able to place on both East Coast and West Coast. Being centrally located here in the Midwest gives us easy access with 3 or 4 hour flight time to either coast. So you can easily, interview and pursue jobs almost nationwide. We have mostly product management, opportunities where students have taken jobs as product manager, business owner, project manager, business analyst, product analyst, supply chain manager, systems engineer, engineering manager. You can see the numbers. And in 2021, we had actually more diversity. So 4 product managers, but again, we had 2 project engineers, and you can see a tremendous variety of positions here. We had 27 grads from MEM. 2021 was a strange year because of, at least June of 21, because of COVID. So we had a smaller class. You can see, again, it was a very interesting distribution of where they went and what companies they went to. Several Amazon placements here. And as I recall, a couple Tesla and Apple as well. In terms of salaries, typical full-time salaries starting at about 110, probably inching up to 120 by now. These are the companies they were placed at. Internships, most students who are full-time take an internship in the summer. at a starting salary of about $31 an hour. So at that hourly rate, that's the equivalent of something like $62,000 a year. These internships are really meant to give students an exposure to the company, to the industry, and to see on both sides whether this is a good fit. Part-time salary data. Basically, there's been a 27% growth in salary for those in the program. So if they enter the program on average, making 94, on average when they graduate, they're making about 124. So you can see the progression, some of which might have been natural with or without the program, but it's very clear that the students tell us that the program has accelerated their career and accelerated their salary growth. So they're very positive there. We have great resources. Engineering career development is specific to the School of Engineering. McCormick School hires, we got half a dozen folks or so in ECD who put on job fairs, bring in companies, hook you up with various opportunities and resources. They'll help review your resume. They'll help do some mock interviews. They'll help give you feedback. But most importantly, they're bringing the companies into the campus on a very regular basis. So in the tech building alone, I would say there's probably one or maybe two companies per week that are literally set up with tables, and they're there to answer your questions and for you to give them your resume. On a larger scale across the campus, we have something called an NCA. There you're going to see not so much engineering jobs, more consulting jobs, more jobs that are more generic and kind of business oriented. And they're also doing job fairs and tables and things like that. As I mentioned, resume reviews, advising sessions, and career fairs are the fundamental support service that you get from these folks. But it's really fundamentally up to the student to network and to network and to network again. So experienced students mostly get high quality positions from networking and from their internship, frankly. So I really encourage students to take those 2 or 3 months in the summer to take an internship. And in some cases, thanks to the way the F1 visa works, you can do an internship during the school year. You can do that after your first quarter. You can do that starting in your during winter breaks. So that's an option as well. Alumni Testimonials. Iqbal is one of our more illustrious alum. He came from Motorola, where he was CTO of Global Product Development. He was there when it was Motorola, and then later when it was part of the Google empire, and then later still when it was part of Lenovo. So he is a big advocate of MEM. He says he's been really fortunate to use everything he experienced at MEM throughout his career, and he's had an illustrious career. He's one of our advisors now on our advisory board. MEM at Northwestern is part of the consortium of MEM PC schools that include Cornell, Duke, Dartmouth, Hopkins, MIT, Purdue, Tufts, and USC. So it's a great group of schools. We have some interesting events that are cross school that are often held on the East Coast. So our students either have to dial in or jump on planes. But as you can see, a lot of these schools are kind of East Coast dominated. We have one West Coast school and 2 Midwestern schools. Everything else is on the East Coast. So it makes sense that we go there, and occasionally they'll have events here in the Midwest. Requirements for admission: 3.0 GPA minimum, undergrad STEM degree. We are waiving, because of COVID, the GMAT and GRE scores for this admission cycle. We do want 3 letters of reference, and they need to come from senior people who know you well. We want very specific and I guess you would say tailored reference letters. My recommendation is get the most senior person you can to write those recommendation letters for you. We prefer, only one academic reference. The others should be professional. So at least 2 professional reference letters, please, right? We want a strong, concise personal statement. We have rejected applications simply because the personal statement made no sense. It didn't line up with MEM, or it looked like fundamentally the candidate was looking for an MBA. And if you're looking for an MBA, please, there's so many MBA programs. Go ahead, apply, go get your MBA, but don't Don't think of MEM as a substitute for the MBA. It's a different degree altogether. And there's many specialized master's degrees out there that you can look at. We are looking for reasonable career progression. So if you've had 3 years of stagnation, that does not look good. We want to see that you've progressed in your responsibilities, both supervisory as well as technical, right? For foreign students, a TOEFL or IELTS, TOEFL greater than 100, IELTS of 7. We do have that fee that we talked about, but that is waived for those who attend this session. We will likely have an interview with you, possibly 2 or 3 before you're admitted. We do want WES translation for your transcript, so that is a cost and a responsibility that the applicant has to bear. But I think it's well worth it so that we can have a standardized view of your transcript. These are the tuitions and deadlines. Start with the tuition. Right now, we're at about $5,500 per course, $19,000 per quarter. So if you do the math, that's roughly $57,000 for 3 quarters of study. Depending on how you lay it out, it could be a little bit more. Full-time students should get their package submitted. That includes resume, transcript, reference letters, the whole package by January 15th for the first round. Okay, we do have subsequent rounds, but the first round has a deadline of the 15th. Part-time students, we have rolling admissions for part-time, so 60 days prior to the start of the quarter. So as we sit here now in mid-October, we are a little bit more than 60 days. We're probably 75 days away from the start of the quarter. So if you're part-time, you want to start this winter, please get your application in the next, let's just say the next 2 weeks, right? We do have some scholarship money coming from Al Rubenstein, who was the founding director of the program. We've named a scholarship after him. And we also have some job opportunities on campus where you can earn some monies, as well as TA, what we call grader roles. So we probably hire something like maybe 8 to 10 graders per year. So those are opportunities to earn some money as well. This is the graduating class from a few years ago. This is their graduation picture. You can see it's not a huge group. It's probably, in the case of this, probably 25, 30 students. We'd love you to be a part of this. We'd love you to participate. This is actually taken in front of our Tech Institute building, one of the great buildings we have on campus. So with that, I will see if we have any questions. It's 9:32, so I think we finished on time.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Great presentation. I figured that one useful way that we can do this is I can basically feed you some questions that we've gotten so that we answer the same question too many times. And one of the main questions that I've seen from people is whether or not work experience is mandatory and what kind of work experience is best. Can you please explain and elaborate on that?
Yeah, we're looking for professional experience. So anything that relates to your degree. Most of the time, this is either internships or we're looking for post-graduation work experience. 3 years is a general rule of thumb as a floor. We've occasionally accepted people with less. We usually accept people with more. So as my slides indicated, the average is closer to 5 years of experience in practice right here on the ground today. But if you have 3, or even if you have 2, I wouldn't discourage you from applying. You definitely should apply because we look at the whole package. We don't just look at how many years of experience or just the GPA. We're looking at a combination of things, including your reference letters, what type of experience you've had. People ask me, okay, if I'm an entrepreneur, does that count? Yes, certainly that counts. If you were running a business for a year or 2, that's considered professional experience. So hopefully that helps.
It does. And just to double check, can you be very specific about whether or not people can apply right out of undergrad?
You can. The likelihood of acceptance is pretty low unless you have some kind of experience you can point to. So professional internships, summer jobs, but If you're just a recent graduate, somebody who has very, like zero experience, I would say you have a very low chance of being accepted. I would encourage you to wait until you have some experience and then, come to us or consider an MEMPC school. Almost all of them, the exception being MIT, but for almost all of them, accept students and admit them with no experience.
Great. And what about internship experience?
Yeah, we normally count that. It's got to be professional. It's got to be aligned with your degree, but yeah, absolutely, that counts. But recognize that, a couple months here, a couple months there. I mean, we're looking for ideally, 3 years. So.
Thank you. A separate question that I've seen from a couple of different people are whether or not they need a WES or some other sort of translation service for their transcript or for their, just like anybody who's an international student. And I know that the short answer of this is yes, they do need a WES evaluation. We're going to make that more mandatory now. But Mark, is there anything else you wanted to add to that answer?
No, I guess this applies to students that were, or candidates that were schooled in schools outside of the US. So if you were schooled at the University of Michigan or someplace like that, we understand those transcripts very well. So we don't need WES for those.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Hello, Mark.
Yes.
Sorry, I missed the slide, but I want to just reconfirm that is GRE waived off for 2022 spring intake or?
Yeah. Yeah, the GRE scores are waived for this entire school year. So if you're applying for 22, if you're applying as a part-time student for this school year, we're going to waive the GRE mostly because of COVID. We're going to review this for next year. It's possible it'll be permanently waived, but that decision hasn't been made yet. So you can still submit your scores if you have them, but they're not required. So it would supplement the rest of your package.
Yeah, and also with that, there's the questions of if they don't submit their GRE scores, will that negatively impact them?
No, it won't negatively impact you at all. I mean, if you don't have them, we don't expect them, we don't require them, and we're certainly not going to punish you for them. I think you need to understand the dynamic. The COVID virus hit us pretty hard about a year and a half ago. The incoming class, where normally we have, I don't know, somewhere between say 30 and 50 incoming students was slashed. I mean, it was much smaller. This year, we have a very healthy, more than 50 students coming into MEM this year. Part of it is because of the backlog or the deferred students from the year before. So we're seeing a pretty large class go through the program now. And we're anticipating large classes based on, sessions like this, where we have, 65 participants today. A month ago, we had 100 participants. So we're expecting a large class again for next year. I think the COVID issue, if you want to call it that, is largely behind us in terms of impacts on enrollments, but we still wear masks on campus, and occasionally a class is held online for a variety of reasons, but we also have hybrid classes. Most of our classes are hybrids, so you're on the ground, your faculty's on the ground, you're face-to-face in a classroom, and occasionally a student here or there needs to dial in for whatever reason. So, and we accommodate that.
Yeah. And Lisa sort of already answered this question, but just to reiterate, questions of when can full-time and international students apply to start the program? And they have to start in a fall quarter. That's due to visa restrictions and also the way that the curriculum is set up. It is the best way for you all to have any sort of options in terms of the 9, 12, or 15-month graduation career track. So it's definitely better to start in the fall. For full-time, for part-time and domestic students, you can start in any quarter.
Right. So you're absolutely right, Lauren. Full-time international students must, I'll repeat, must start in the fall. We don't accommodate any other quarter for full-time internationals. part-time students, domestic full-time students can start in any quarter. When the question is, when should you apply? The best time to apply, in my opinion, is round one. Round one has a deadline of January 15th for all of your package, or your entire package. So transcripts, reference letters, all of it. So while that's the best time, it's not the only time. If you miss round one, you can always take up round two or round three, but recognize those rounds are much smaller. I would say the majority of the student admission decisions are made in round one.
Yeah.
The best time is round one, January 15th.
Yes, definitely. Another couple of questions I've gotten are, what if somebody has a TOEFL or IELTS score just below the requirement? And one way that we like to answer that question is that there's a couple other ways that you can show your English proficiency, such as in your statement of purpose, but also if you're asked to interview, we get a good chance of figuring that out in that way. However, for the most part, if your TOEFL or IELTS scores, generally, if your language scores are a bit below our requirement, we still encourage you to apply. But overall, we have those requirements because we don't want the difficulty of classes to be compounded with the difficulty of language. We definitely want you to be able to thrive as well as you can in the classes, and having the added difficulty of not quite understanding what's going on in class is only going to hurt you. So we definitely are trying to make it so that you have the best experience when you get in here. Mark, is there anything else you want to add to that?
Oh, you said it very well. I'd only add that we've got students from around the world, and you can imagine if they have a marginal command of English from all these different parts of the world, different countries, different dialects, it would be very difficult to hold a class. Most of our classes involve discussion. They involve presentation skills. It'll require that you do a lot of communicating, both in writing and verbally. And if you don't understand, if you can't keep up with the dialogue in class, if the class can't understand what you're saying, it doesn't help anybody. So we're usually, I would say, firm when it comes to a TOEFL of, let's say, 100. Have people been admitted with less than 100? Yes. Often? No. And is it dramatically below 100? No. It might be 95, 98, 97. If you feel that the TOEFL does not reflect your language skills, I would encourage you to take it again.
Yeah, I know that we've also gotten some questions in the past, like especially via email, about who has to submit language scores. And one of the things that we say is that if you completed your undergrad basically in a place where English was the main language, the native language, then you're set. You don't need to submit any language scores. However, we have a couple of exceptions to this, just based off of historical data. We still have students from India and students from a couple of other places. They still have to submit language scores. There's a couple of exceptions to this, but it's quite rare. So we recommend that you still just submit your language scores no matter what. And on top of that, Duolingo is not acceptable instead of IELTS or TOEFL scores. We do not accept Duolingo at all.
If there's any question as to your language skills, we're going to definitely have an interview set up, and maybe more than one. So we'll definitely be assessing your language skills during the interview. If it's really questionable, I'll be honest with you, we probably would deny the applicants simply because of a low TOEFL score. There are other programs on our campus here that do not have such strict TOEFL requirements, and you can always apply to some of those. But if you have a marginal score, you think you can improve it, I would definitely encourage you to take it again. Any other questions? Look, in general, the MEM program here is selective. We're on par with some of the best MBA programs in the world. On average, we accept about 1 out of 4 of the applicants, which is typical for even some of the best MBA programs. So all I can say is, put together your best package and put your best foot forward. Spend time on the, purpose. There's a statement of purpose. Make sure that it's very crisp. It crystallizes why MEM and why Northwestern and why now in your career. Make sure you have really solid reference letters, people that know you, that can cite projects that they've worked on with you, that have seen you in action and can speak to the specifics as to how you operate and why you're ready for an MEM degree, right?
That's great. I think that a lot of questions that were not answered here can be found on our website. Otherwise, you can always email us at mem@northwestern.edu.
We do have a student here, or I guess what we call a student ambassador, correct, Krupal? I don't think we can.
Absolutely, yeah.
Is there anything you want to mention to these applicants about the process and what it's like to be a student?
I guess most of the things has been covered on the presentation. So, and I guess most of the students have questions regarding the intakes, their GRE requirements, English language proficiency. So I guess all the information is there on the website. So yeah.
What's not there is what is it like to be a student in MEM? So maybe you want to spend a couple minutes on that.
Actually, I would say like I choose the MEM at Northwestern because the cohort actually like the class size, because it's very precise. You have the opportunity to with the part-time students who have the good chunk of experience, and even with the full-time students, they do have the average 7 years of work experiences. And second thing is like at the resources you will get at the Northwesterns, like for your internships, for the projects at the garage, and lots of things has been going on in the campus. So yeah, the networking opportunities, and that was the reason for applying for me at the Northwestern, not like other universities.
Yeah, I mean, a great example is I'm teaching negotiations. I'm teaching it last night. There were there's 22 students in the class, right?
Yeah.
So I think if you go to a typical MBA or even some of our competitors in MEM, you're going to find a class with 50, 60, or even 75 students in there. It's a question of preference, I suppose, but the smaller class gives you a more intimate kind of relationship with the faculty, your fellow students. It feels more manageable. And, when you break up into teams, you don't have, 50 teams. You have, like last night, we had 11 teams of 2 each. So, it's much more manageable, and I think it's easier to navigate, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, thank you, Krupal. If there's no questions for either of us, I guess we can call it a day. What do you think, Mandy or Lauren?
I think you hit all the points. Anything else, Lauren, that you can think of that to add? But I think you guys nailed it.
Yeah, and if you have any other questions or to request an application fee waiver, especially after you start an application, please email mem@northwestern.edu. Again, I'm putting that in the chat so you can make sure that you're emailing us.
And our MEM degree is really geared towards helping you achieve your goals. It's a very flexible degree. I want you guys to keep that in mind. We are focused on experienced professionals. So we are one of the few programs that actually, do focus on experienced professionals. But we want to encourage everyone to apply because exceptional candidates are always welcome. And in many cases, they're admitted, even with less than 3 years of experience. So please apply and go through that process with us. And I wish you luck in your career wherever it takes you. And I do implore you to consider higher education beyond your bachelor's degree. A grad degree in engineering, I think, will always serve you well. So with that, I want to wish you a good evening and a good day. And we're here to answer your questions by email. If you want to send it to us, mem@northwestern.edu. Okay, with that, thank you all.
Thank you.